The issues affecting you. Revealed, explained, discussed. Now on WGAL 8 in Focus.
Hello, I'm Susan Shapiro. The Ned Smith Center for Nature and Art is in a beautiful setting in Millersburg, Dauphin County, and brings together nature and art. It celebrates the life and work of wildlife artist, naturalist, and writer Ned Smith. Tonight, we'll learn about the center's mission, the programs it offers, and different events you and your family can go to year-round. We're putting the Ned Smith Center for Nature and Art in focus. Joining us now to talk about the center are Executive Director Laura Maupin and Operations Manager Alexandra Singer. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
I feel like this is one of those hidden gems in the Susquehanna Valley that a lot of people might not know about.
Definitely. We hear that a lot. People might drive by the sign and not really know what's there for them. We really do have something for everyone. So please, next time, if you're driving by that sign, come on in. We've got over 500 acres of beautiful land, a creek, the Wiccanisco Creek, a lovely bridge, pedestrian bridge over the creek. So 9 miles of trails, a children's play area, a center that houses educational spaces, as well as 3 galleries and lots of events.
So this is really quite a setting, isn't it, Alexandra?
Yeah, it's beautiful. You see the backdrop of the mountains. We do have concerts there that, you know, as you're looking at the band, you see the entire Berry Mountain behind you. It's a really beautiful view.
What is the mission of the center?
We exist to honor the legacy of Millersburg resident, longtime Millersburg resident Ned Smith, who was a renowned wildlife artist in Pennsylvania, by merging the arts and the natural world. So we really want to give people lots of different experiences to experience nature and art together in combination.
It's a great combination.
Yeah.
What kinds of educational programs do you do?
We have camps, we have school programs. Our educators can travel out to different sites. We also offer programs for people of all ages, so programs for adults, perhaps a fungi foray or learning about our owl banding programs, lots of guided hikes, lots of different things.
What would you say to someone who's thinking, oh, maybe I'll make a stop this summer there?
Probably that we have a little bit of something for everybody. We also try to keep cost in mind. We do come from an area where cost is important, as it is to everybody. So we want to make sure that what's in your pocket isn't what gets you in the door.
Oh, so how does that work?
Our galleries are free to attend. I mean, we ask for a donation, but if you don't have anything, we feel that art and nature is for everybody.
Yep, so we're open, free to the public year-round.
How does the center sustain itself?
Through donations, grants. We do a lot of different fundraising activities and through our programs and tickets to concerts and things like that.
What about Ned Smith and why, you know, they developed a center dedicated to him?
It's really a wonderful story of a community effort. When he passed away, his widow Marie was left with much of his art, and they were trying to figure out, well, where is this art going to go? And community members came together to build the center, to found the center, so that there was a place where his work could stay in his hometown of Millersburg.
Oh, that's really wonderful.
Yeah.
What do you think people can gain from, being in the outdoors there and also experiencing, a lot of artwork?
Again, it's something for everyone, and people take away a lot of different things. I hear from people who have really raised their kids, coming over, playing in the creek, looking for wildlife, playing in the playground. People might come and go fishing, but you just, you take away a sense of calm, a sense of connection. And of course, the art is also inspiring. It might inspire, other activities for you to be involved in.
I imagine it could inspire young artists.
For sure.
Yes, it definitely does. There's a few people I went to high school with myself that have turned into some pretty hefty artists. Carrie Fight being one of them. She went to a neighboring school. She's a fantastic artist.
Yeah, there's something special about art that's, done about your surroundings, I think.
Yeah. I mean, Ned Smith, was so fantastic at capturing not just the animals that he was portraying, but everything about their environment in such a correct and accurate way. And I know I've heard from lots of people who are very inspired as they were young, you know, by seeing that work. So.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you both for being here. We appreciate it. Coming up on WGAL 8 in Focus, we'll look at the nature and art programs offered at the center.
This is WGAL 8 in Focus, coverage you can count on.
And joining us now is Emily Rossmus, who's the Director of Educational Programming, and we're talking about the nature and arts education programs at the center. First off, how does Ned Smith's legacy work into some of your education at the center?
Yeah, so we always try to incorporate Ned's legacy into our education programs, and I always like to say that Ned was a naturalist first and an artist second, which maybe Alexis will have something to say about, but I say that because he was always very concerned about respecting the outdoors and making sure that he was observing and noticing things and using that in his artistic research. So when we go out in the woods with like a school group, we always make sure that we focus on we are entering into somebody else's habitat, into their home. And so we should be mindful of that. We should make our observations, learn a little bit, but always with that underlying note of respect and admiration for where we are.
What do you think that respect means? What do you try to teach, especially young people?
Yeah, and it can be, you know, working with all different age groups and audiences. It can be something as simple as looking at a snake and talking about why that snake is there, the importance it has to do with our ecosystem, and we don't have to be afraid of it, and we also don't have to hurt the snake, you know. Same thing with things like even anthills or bees and things, just unlocking that interest in people, individuals, regardless of age, and looking at things a little bit closer to appreciate them.
I was going to say, why do you think that's important, especially for children?
Yeah, well, because, I mean, and being an environmental educator, and that's primarily what our programs are, environmental education. The environment is something that we should be protecting. You know, we all live in the world, we all live in something else's habitat, and so acknowledging that we need to protect that in order to make sure that we ourselves have somewhere to live in the future, it's very, very important to convey that to everybody who's visiting, and like I said, starting somewhere as small as an anthill, as small as a snake, building upon that, especially if there are people who are coming back to the center over and over again, kind of building on that knowledge and appreciating.
Pennsylvania has a long history of state parks and state game lands and protecting the environment.
It does. I think that, I hope that a lot of Pennsylvanians know how lucky we are, but Pennsylvania has a very rich history with environmentalism. We are one of the only states to have a Green Amendment passed in 1971 by Franklin Curry, so that's something we talk about too, is this long history of Pennsylvania's environmental education. Our relationship with the forests, you know, we almost deforested our entire state at one point. So it is really impressive to look back at this long history and use our state as an example of why it's so important to talk about those kind of topics and the impact it can have if we don't further environmental education.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So can you just show up at the center and get on an education program or a tour or a hike?
Yeah, if you stop by on the right date, you might just wander into a guided nature program or something. We do have summer camps during the summer for kids, different age groups, but basically 4 to 12-year-olds we have summer camps for. Those we do ask for registration, so we can prepare for those. We also have guided hikes, small art workshops on the weekends and things, and we do ask for registration just so we know how many people to expect at those kind of programs. But we also have a lot of passive programming options, so anybody is free to show up on any day and check out our art galleries, head out on the trail for a hike, all free of charge, of course. Yep.
What do you like about this work?
What don't I like about this work, right? I get to go outside, I get to talk to people, interact with people, teach people, and just living in the area and being able to go outside whenever I just need a little break. It's amazing. And the connections that I'm able to make with the community is really rewarding too.
And connection with nature,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
What's the best way if families want to come there, or school groups, or whoever?
I would say check out our website. That has all the contact information for all of those information, or all the information for those things, as well as links to any of the registrations that we have for the programs.
And you lead hikes in the area there?
Yeah, we do. We have something going on basically year round. So I personally love a good winter hike. I always hope for snow, and half the time it works out. But we do have something going on most times. So like I said, you can check out our website, read about what you're interested in too, because we do have a little bit of something for everybody. So by looking on there, you can kind of decide when you want to show up.
That's what I'm hearing, something
Yeah.
for everybody, and you are open year-round.
We are, yes.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Coming up on WGAL, we'll talk about how you can see art at the center.
This is WGAL 8 in Focus, coverage you can count on.
Joining the conversation now is Alexis Fagley. She's the archivist and exhibition curator at the Ned Smith Center for Nature and Art. That is great work that you're doing there. Tell me about Ned Smith. Who is that?
Yeah, sure. So Ned Smith was a really prolific wildlife artist and author. He was born in 1919. He passed away in 1985. He was very well known in Pennsylvania, mostly for his work with the Pennsylvania Game News. He was on the cover his artwork was on the cover for many years. He was also the editor for quite a while. He did advertisements for businesses all throughout Pennsylvania. He did a little of everything. He's got his own line of fishing lures. He gave pieces of art away to friends. I mean, he was a really passionate person about wildlife, and he did something really cool, which was he took his natural gift and he turned it into something that he really cared about, which is the environment.
You said natural gift, but what kind of training did he have?
He's actually self-taught, so he didn't have any training. He started when he was very young. The first piece of art that we have from him was when he was 2 years old. He drew, on a little piece of paper, he drew a little tiny bunny. And we have that piece, and then it's really interesting to see, you know, obviously we've got the first piece and then the pieces that he did throughout his life right before he passed away. So watching his progression as an artist and even his signature, he's had I think like 5 different signatures throughout his career. It's really interesting.
Yeah, to see, as you said, the progression, and I'm sure how much better he got as an artist.
Yes, yeah, oh my gosh, I mean by leaps and bounds. It's really unfortunate when he passed away. I think he was really in his prime, and that's in the 80s is when he created most of his masterpieces. Yeah, late 70s, early 80s.
And that's not an easy thing to paint and draw so realistically.
No, not at all. And I think one of the things that makes Ned such a fantastic artist is his attention to detail. I mean, there's this one piece that pops to mind, a little bit cautious, where it's a fall scene and there's a black bear coming around the corner and you feel like you're there. And then you look down and there's this little tiny porcupine and he's about to jump out and scare the bear. But at first glance, because you're so enthralled with this background that he's created, you don't even notice the porcupine. So, I mean, all of his pieces are like that. They're all so meticulous and detailed, and I would say that Ned was probably a perfectionist. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen any of his work that was not true to how the animal would behave or act or look. So he's pretty amazing.
So these are pieces of artwork that you keep noticing different things in, I imagine.
Yes, I mean, I think that you can stare at a lot of Ned's pieces and notice something different each time.
So you have his whole collection that was donated by his wife?
We do have, yes, most of the collection that was donated by his wife. We also do receive pieces from people in the community who he gifted art to. That's one of my favorite things about this job is receiving new pieces that we didn't even know that Ned did. But yeah, we have hundreds and hundreds of pieces of his work.
That's interesting. He gave away a lot of his artwork?
He did. I think that Ned was so passionate about his mission behind his art, which was taking care of the environment, that he wanted to spread that message to anybody who would listen. I think he had a lot of friends in the wildlife and art community, and I think in that kind of community where you're kind of taking care of each other, I mean, in the environment, you have to take care of each other. So I think he was happy to give something beautiful to somebody that he cared about.
Oh, that's so wonderful. What do you feel like you've learned from looking at all of the artwork of his?
I mean, I will admit I came into this job not knowing very many like birds or plants or mushrooms, and I think for my first few months in archives I called Emily every day to come up and help me identify what bird I was looking at. But I've learned so much about wildlife, and I've learned so much about, you know, how the environment was when he was alive and he was doing this work versus how the environment is now, and the changes that we've seen over time. It's been really fascinating to have like this concrete, physical, like visual evidence of how things were and then how they are now.
Do you feel like you have a little connection with Ned Smith?
I love Ned Smith. Yeah, I do. I do. I think he was just a really incredible person who had a really strong mission, and he worked really hard to convey something that he cared about in a way that other people could appreciate it.
And he worked in many different mediums, didn't he?
He did, yeah. A lot of the masterpieces that we have are acrylic and oil on Mossite board, but he also did do watercolor. He used charcoal, pen and ink. I mean, he taught himself how to do everything.
Mm-hmm. Certainly a gift to Pennsylvania.
Yes, he is.
Oh, well, thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
And coming up on WGAL 8 in Focus, we'll talk about some of the programs that have been at the center through the years. And stick around, you'll see a familiar face from the WGAL family.
This is WGAL 8 in Focus, coverage you can count on.
Joining us now to talk more about the programs at the Ned Smith Center for Art and Nature and Ned Smith through the years are retired WGAL naturalist Jack Hubley and John D. Leskowski, who's a member of the Board of Trustees, also known as Mothman. Tell me why you got that nickname.
Well, it was a side business that I developed as a biology teacher, and I was always interested in butterflies and moths. In fact, I had the pleasure of working here at WGAL with Jack on Call the Outdoors for Kids and the Wild Moment segments.
We remember it well. So how did the Ned Smith Center get started?
Well, Ned passed away in 1985, and Marie, with a number of community people, developed the center because Marie, they had no children. So the problem was taxation for the wealth of his mammoth collection of wildlife art and materials. So a group of about 27 people came together over a period of a couple years to set the center up, which was later incorporated as a nonprofit in 1993.
Oh, it's wonderful. And you had a chance to meet Ned, Jack, didn't you?
The real reason for that moniker is occasionally see a moth fly out of his beard. So that's the origin of that.
You haven't lost your sense of humor, I see.
Well, John's been a big help to that down through the years, doing the Wild Moment nature vignettes. He would often team up with me, and we had a great time. Humor is very much a part of that, because otherwise people just go to the kitchen and make a sandwich while I'm doing my spots. So.
Exactly. Well, we hope they're not doing that now. But let's talk about Ned Smith. You got a chance to meet him.
I did, yeah, in the 70s. I grew up a big fan of Ned's, and his compilation here is why. Gone for the Day were his journal notes, accompanied by his incredible art in the Pennsylvania Game News. And as a young hunter, I of course got Game News. And the thing that struck me about Ned was that he was a total naturalist. Everything interested him, from a white-footed mouse to a black bear. Everything out there was important to him that was natural, and I think that he helped to instill that in all of us. And
as you mentioned, he was also a good writer.
Oh, exceptional writer. And what is unique is that he impressed so many other writers and artists. So if you have a chance to go to the Middle Creek Wildlife Art Show coming up the first weekend in August, you'll see a lot of those artists that are prolific today were initially influenced by Ned.
Interesting. So they took a nod, and they gave a nod to him, shall we say. And Jack, you purchased one of his pieces, didn't you? How did that come about?
My wife Tina and I made a visit to his house, and he and Marie were very gracious. His wife was wonderful too, very patient and gracious. I purchased actually his first print that he had made from his painting of a goshawk. My preoccupation with birds of prey shows through, so I had to buy his first print from the goshawk. And his attention to detail, as we pointed out, was, I mean, he knew a hawk had 12 tail feathers, he knew a hawk had 10 primaries, and you weren't going to find a mistake in a furred or feathered animal in any of his artwork.
Do you remember what you paid for it?
$60. The going retail price. He said, and it was a painting of a goshawk with a dead blue jay in its talons, and he complained that he couldn't sell the thing because he figured it was because of that blue jay, the dead bird in the picture. And I said, Ned, I'll take one off your hands.
So a lot of people didn't like that, but you liked it. Why do you think it's important to carry on his legacy?
Well, for one, it's the mindset of many of the people at the Ned Smith Center is to get kids involved in nature. With computers and all the newfangled things we have, a lot of kids don't get that aspect developed in their life at a very young age. Ned always said, if you give me a square yard of a lawn, I'll keep a kid busy for hours. And that's the way it was. In respect to what the center has done, our programming is such that it entices families to come, and especially kids. So through everything that Emily and Al and Laura have related in the other segments, this is the goal, to get kids off their butts out into nature.
And learn something in the process. Well, thank you both for being here. We appreciate it.
Great to be back, Susan.
We love having you back.
Great to see you today.
Thank you for joining us for WGAL 8 in Focus. For all of us at WGAL, I'm Susan Shapiro. And join us again next Saturday night at 7 o'clock for WGAL 8 in Focus, right after NBC Nightly News. And you can watch each episode of In Focus, plus WGAL's latest newscast, original programming, and more. Just download the Very Local app and stream for free on Roku and Amazon Fire TV.